Hi, my name is Garrett, Goggin, CFA with Silver Stock Analyst. Today we have George Paspalas, CEO of MAG Silver, joining us. Hey, George, how you doing?
Good, Garrett. Yourself?
Good. I'm really excited that you joined us today because, MAG we've been waiting a while. We've been waiting a few years for this, right? And MAG's getting very close to
Yep.
putting with Fresnillo, Juanicipio in production.
Yep, it's been a long wait. We have some very loyal shareholders who have been with us for some since our IPO in 2003. But it's been worth the wait, Garrett. I mean, as we have waited, we've grown this asset and we've reached the geological, I won't say understanding, because it's like peeling an onion here. It's almost every time we do a drill program, we take another layer of the onion off to really understand this. And it's, I'm sure as we go through today, you're going to realise it's a phenomenal geological endowment. And, not a bad time to be bringing probably the world's largest single silver producer online. So the wait's been worth it. And thank you, shareholders, for waiting for us.
It's been no problem. I was looking at your mineralization your resource study that we'll get into later, but it's amazing. It's huge. It's 25 million tons. It can handle a mine life of, over 10 years at, a large rate, 8,000 tons a day. But, first I kind of want to get in the backstory of MAG Silver. First of all, MAG, where'd the name come from?
Well, I'd like to say it's M Mexican, AG for silver. I'm not quite sure that's the way it played out. It was it was a numbered company in Vancouver. We IPO'd in 2003. The principal asset that we had on IPO was the Juanicipio property. Our chief exploration officer, Peter McGaw, had been watching that property for a long time. It had been in the hands of the government. Fresnillo had owned it and gave it back to the government. And Peter finally got it. We IPO'd the company along with some other assets that an asset we currently own. We raised a little bit of money on the IPO. Peter came on the ground with two sort of beaming drill me targets. He drilled the first one, called it Juanicipio, and hole JU001, very first hole sunk in the property was a discovery hole into the Juanicipio vein. And, we continued to drill Juanicipio. This piece of property is sort of nestled around a lot of tenements that Fresnillo PLC, the world's largest primary silver producer, own. It's in the Fresnillo Trend in Mexico, the world's most preeminent silver district. You talked about the mineralization being amazing. Well, it's location. We're in an amazing district. And Fresnillo saw what was going on and they approached MAG and said, look, we're pretty interested in what you're doing here. Would you consider, some sort of partnership or a joint venture or earn-in? And so we did an earn-in. During that earn-in on hole 15, we hit a new vein we called it Valdecanes. And that has now become something totally incredible. In terms of what we're finding at Valdecanes.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. First drill hole, how many times does that happen? Companies will spend millions of dollars drilling thousands of drill holes. They don't find anything. Peter found it on his first one. And he found that you drilled that hole after you guys IPO'd, huh?
Yep.
What did the stock do back then?
Well, it went up. I mean, MAG's been around during that phase, it was in the 50 cent to $1.20 sort of mark. But back in those times, it was difficult to raise money, even on a good intercept. And that's where the earn-in from Fresnillo was important to moving the project forward, right?
Okay.
So they came in with a cash payment and $5 million of in-ground expenditure. And then once Valdecanes was found, Fresnillo had earned in as the operator, and they took an initiative to stop drilling and go and purchase the surface rights from the local landholders, and that's where we end up with the land that we have on the joint venture ground where we were going to build the plant. Then the joint venture's established. It's 56% Fresnillo, 44% MAG, and Fresnillo is the operator.
So Fresnillo paid $5 million for their share in MAG?
They put $5 million in the ground and they gave us $500,000 of cash.
Damn, that's probably the best investment ever, huh?
Yeah. I think I can't speak for them, but they might agree with that. They probably had a few good ones.
Yeah. What about the story about how you acquired the property, how MAG acquired the property? Didn't you pay one of the individual? Didn't you pay a gas station for it?
There was a land swap.
Mm.
Yeah, to the owner. So, that might actually be the deal of the century.
Yeah, I think that one is. He wanted a gas station, right?
I don't know how the gas station's doing, but this property's doing all right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, man, if you kept that property, he could have had 1,000 gas stations.
Well, I'm not in the gas station business, so I'm not quite sure what makes value there, but I know what makes value in the mining business, and it's the exploration success is the start of that sort of value creation stage that we've had here at Juanicipio.
Right.
And we've had a lot of success, right?
Yep, it definitely is amazing. Speaking about your resource, 25 million tons, AG silver equivalent grade of 865 grams a ton. If you convert into a silver equivalent, it's close to 700 million ounces. And then I was just playing around. I converted it to gold. It's a pretty easy, 100 ratio right now. So it's 7 million ounces of gold at, a 9 gram a ton average grade. It's pretty astounding any way you look at it.
As you say, Garrett, the endowment's quite immense, if I can use that word. And what you're referring to, the 25 million tonnes, is from our 2017 PEA. And there's been 2 years of drilling.
Wow.
And I think you'll find that resource has grown. This is a forward-looking statement. A viewer can go and maybe check what I'm saying by looking at the Fresnillo annual report where they've updated their resources in February this year. I can't talk about that. I can just tell you that they have updated their resources. But in the 25 million tonnes you're talking about, as we mine through the mineralisation, it's very silver rich in the early years. Silver contributes about 70% of the revenue. As we go through the Bonanza Zone, as we get deeper, the silver grade starts to drop. The gold's consistent through the whole thing, and then the base metals pick up as we get deeper. And so when you get into the deep zone, the new zone we've found since 2013, which is continuous with the Bonanza Zone, it's about a 50-50 split between silver and the other metals.
How is the deposit going to be mined? Are they going right to the deep zone first?
Well, the PEA really describes this very eloquently. Right? We've since 2013, October 2013, we've ramped down and we're now in the top of the Bonanza Zone. Right? That's the red part of that section you see on our corporate presentation. And we're mining that now. And we actually bring the first production stope online in October, so 3 months away. Which is an interesting story here because the flotation plant's still being built. And we're actually going to monetize some of that pre-production material by selling it to Fresnillo, who are going to put it through the Fresnillo plant in what we call a batch or campaign process, where for 2 days a month, that Fresnillo plant's going to process exclusively Juanicipio material, and we're going to get a great insight into the metallurgical response, because the flow sheet, the process plant of the Fresnillo plant is very similar, almost identical to the Juanicipio plant. And so when we start up Juanicipio, if you look at the PEA, you'll see a 3-year ramp up to nameplate of 4,000 tonnes per day. If you look at all of the disclosure until recently, you see a 3-year ramp up. What Fresnillo, as the operator, and we agree with this, are saying that we're going to start up the plant in the middle of next year, by the end of next year will be at 85% of nameplate. That compression of that ramp up is by virtue of processing Juanicipio material in a similar plant for, I don't know, 10 months maybe. And the learnings we get from that reduce our ramp-up time. That's incredible cash flow gain to us, to the joint venture.
Your CapEx is all prepaid. You guys paid all your CapEx, so there's no, you don't owe Fresnillo anything. That's going to be all cash in your pocket, right?
Yeah, we pay as we build, but we've just had a very successful private placement for $60 million Canadian, 40 million from Eric Sprott.
Yep.
That's a very telling financing. I mean, Mr. Scott's very bullish on silver, has invested a lot in the silver space. This is his largest single investment in silver. So he obviously understands the quality of this asset and the potential. When I say potential of the mineralization to continue, to increase, potential of perhaps the project will expand in size, and near-term potential for the share price to re-rate as we get into cash flow. I mean, there's a chance we could be declaring cash flow in Q3 of 2020.
Nice.
I can tell you that's not built into our share price.
Right. Yeah, the Sprott investment, the market was extremely interested in that. Your stock did well, the few weeks after that. But yeah, I wasn't expecting any cash flow this year. That'll definitely be interesting to see. But regarding your valuation, 1.1 bill, 1.2 bill US, right? You look at your 4,000 ton a day feasibility, right? And you run the numbers, and it's hard to get to that, $1 billion market valuation. But what's going on here is that, Fresnillo operates Saucedo right across the range right there. It's only a mile away, right? And they operate Saucedo at 8,000 tons a day. So they already do it there. When they build MAGS facilities, they're going to start with a 4,000 ton a day operation. But if you look at their mineralization, if you do 8,000 tons a day, that's 29 million tons. They already have 25 mil in their mineralization statement. And like George said, Fresnillo drilled more. They're going to be adding more tons. It will support an 8,000 ton a day operation for at least 10 years. It's just, it's an amazing asset. So when you start factoring that in, you can see, the value basically doubles. But still, even at that, it's fairly highly valued based at that NAV forecast. But I think what's going on here is it's almost being valued as like a royalty or a streaming company that trade at like 20x or 24x. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't know how long you want to talk. I think a lot about this.
Because how many employees do you have? You have like 10 employees, right? No overhead.
8. No, we have 8.
Okay.
8. Yeah, that's about almost 200 million Canadian per employee, which is, who else has that sort of metric? Royalty companies. So we are a proxy for a royalty company, but our P to NAV does not trade at the same premium as a royalty company yet.
But it trades higher than a producer.
Well, we're not quite even at a producer yet.
Okay.
Okay, we're trading more like a 0.8, 0.9 P NAV, where producers are in the 1.2, 1.4s. And we believe that once we start announcing cash flow, that we will start to get that re-rating of that status. Here's the reason why there's a disconnect between our valuation and the NAV. Now, NAV is based generally on numbers worked up from the 2017 PEA.
Yep.
Operating costs are significant. So what happened with that PEA is we were very conservative because we had to release that for SEC requirements. We're not the operator in the joint venture. Fresnillo are great operators and a very prudent company who do not get ahead of themselves. So we did a very, very conservative PEA. Right? We, of the 25 million tonnes that you referred to here, we only process about 17 of it. We leave the Juanicipio vein behind. We've discovered the Anticipata vein. We leave that behind. We leave a lot of material behind. You said Saucedo's 1 mile away. It is on the surface, but underneath the ground, it's the same vein. Right? Saucedo is the same vein as Valdecanes.
Would you consider it the feeder zone for Saucedo, or?
I wouldn't consider it. I'll tell you it is.
Okay, there you go.
And if you have a look at our corporate presentation, you see that big red arrow deep coming up out of the centre of the earth into Valdecanes. Valdecanes represents a fluid upwelling zone, which is what makes it so unique, which is why every time we drill, we hit stuff. And I think that people in the market are creating a value for MAG based on current data, whereas the NAV is generally backed up by inputs from the PEA. And if you look at the operating costs in the PEA, they're significantly higher than Saucedo. And that's because
what does Saucedo run at as far as all sustaining cost per ounce?
I haven't looked at that recently, but I can tell you they're running in the high 40s, low $50 per tonne.
Oh, right, okay.
Mined and milled, like all on-site costs, whereas our PEA is up at 57.
50 versus 57. Yep, that's a big difference.
That's nearly $10 million a year in operating costs.
Right. Well, yeah, it's a nice chunk of change, but you know the amount of production, silver equivalent production that's going to be coming out at 8,000 tons a day. It's over 50 million silver equivalent ounces a year, right?
When we get to that, right, we're currently coming up at 4, and so again, if you go back to the PEA, you'll see how we talk about at the Bonanza Zone at the top, we're descending horizontally there with conventional mining, long hole stoping, and that's the 4,000 tonne per day.
Yep.
Sinking an internal shaft past that to get down deeper, and at some point in time in the future, we'll have 2 mines operating on Valdecanes, one above the other, and that's where the second 4,000 tonnes per day can potentially come from.
In your development, is that the reason why you twin your ramps?
Well, what happened when we hit, so we had, our first PEA was 2012, which described the rich Bonanza Zone, right? And that was, as I said, that was 2,700 tonnes per day. We put 4 holes under that in 2015. Just the intention of those holes, they're called sterilisation holes, because every other vein down here in the Fresnillo trend, right, for the last 500 years has been 300 or 400 metres high in depth. And so we had other targets we wanted to drill, so we put these 4 holes underneath to sterilise it, and that's when we found the deep zone, which was wider in a lot of cases, right? Beautiful grades. And then with further drilling, that's where we then established, this is a fluid upwelling zone. This is what geologists live for, finding the source. And that's why Valdecanes is such a magnificent geological feature, because anything around Valdecanes that's permeable will be mineralised. As we wanted to drill deeper, to get the right angle, so you pierce the vein across it, not along it, because some people have done that and fleeced the market. We're not like that. We want a perpendicular intercept for a true width. On the surface, you have to step out wider. As we step out wider and come down, we hit an intercept here. That's not Valdecanes. What did the Mexican geologists call it? Anticipata. In anticipation of it being something. Then we wanted to step out wider to go deeper. Guess what we hit? Pre-anticipata. So, and then we have the Venadas veins running north-south, perpendicular to these now. And that's why you referenced, the 25 million tonnes, the almost billion ounces equivalent. we've only drilled 5% of the surface area of the property. We have other things we want to go and drill. We can't get away from Valdacanes. I mean, it's a Hollywood problem.
Your property's small. How many hectares is it?
It's about 7 kilometres wide.
Yeah.
Which I guess is a bit under 5 metres wide.
Okay.
5 miles wide, and I think it's 18 kilometres long.
Oh, it's that long. Okay.
Yeah, might actually even be 24 kilometres long. We have so many good targets down there to the south, but we've never been there to really follow up because we're stuck up in the corner on Valdacanes.
I know. I keep, when I was down there, you were talking about clay pit, right? And, all that stuff. And, I haven't even been able to get down there.
Well, when Peter came on the property in 2003, clay pit was an equal number one target to hole one in Juanicipio.
Okay.
We still haven't drilled it yet.
Wow.
It's very hard. It's very hard to sort of extract yourself from something as prolific as what we're finding here.
Yeah.
I mean, from a mining point of view, we have Valdacanes, which is remarkable. Then something that's growing very close, something that's getting very large right next to it now is Anticipata. It's 80 metres away. It's 1 month of development to open up. Then we have Pre-Anticipata, which is 120 metres away. Now, Anticipata, Pre-Anticipata could represent 3, 4, 5, I don't know how many years of mine life, with the incremental capital of a month's development to open them up. They come through the existing infrastructure. The value of those parallel deposits is immense. So why leave that, right? Let's try and understand this, and then understand about the expandability of Juanicipio. We'll call it Valdacanes. At some point in time, we'll go and drill clay pit, and that could be quite soon now.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, we have such a tiger by the tail here.
Right.
It's very hard to walk away from it.
Right. And, if you do add a few more tons, it does support a larger operation. The incremental cost of building another mill is tiny. Is it?
Yeah.
Is it 50
That's right. Because look, a lot of the underground infrastructure has been oversized.
Yeah.
So the one thing that I think is important is the operator, Fresnillo, are very cautious in the way they execute. And so I think the expandability of this, look, quite frankly, this is forward-looking, but I think it's inevitable. But I think that there'll be a prudent time frame before that happens. I think the intention will be to come in here, let's get the first 4,000 tonnes per day operating. Let's see what that does. Mm-hmm. Okay. Every time Fresnillo have started up a plant, it's done, well in excess of its nameplate. Mm. So let's see what 4,000 means first.
Right.
And then out of cash flow, let's fund that shaft. Maybe we fund the second thing out of cash flow.
Right. Yeah, they're very smart operators. They're conservative, like you said, building stuff out of cash flow, which is the way to go, as opposed to more dilution, which is the way most mining companies do it. But they're really good operators. Like, I remember when I was down there, right, in the declines, it was like a parking garage. It was like a parking garage down in Florida. It was beautiful. They were just very well designed, right?
Very well designed, very efficiently installed, right? In the last job I had before MAG, I was running a underground mine in Quebec. Mm. It had the same 5x5 ramp. Mm. It was going in for double the cost of the one in Juanicipio. But I tell you what, it didn't have a concrete floor. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't fully shotcreted. Mm-hmm. And so...
That was Castle, right?
Yeah. Great. Nothing wrong with it, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying the ability of Fresnillo to execute underground has surprised me.
Right.
And they're obviously building this asset to last. They're building it for the long haul.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be a long life asset, no doubt. What
think generational, Garrett.
Generational.
This is a generational asset.
Well,
even if even if it gets expanded.
Yeah, with that amount of production, yeah, it is, once in a lifetime for sure. What
Correct.
what are you going to do with what's Mag going to do with all their money? What about, like, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but dividend policy. You're going to focus to be like a streamer. You're going to look for acquisitions. You're going to look for more producers, or where are you going to be in a couple of years from now?
Well, we do believe that the property will generate immense cash flow. I mean, again, if you go back to the PEA, you'll see at $8 silver, and don't for a minute do I think that silver's going to $8.
Mm-hmm.
But at $8 silver, Juanicipio has a 15% after-tax IRR.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I think silver's going to be higher than where we are now for the foreseeable future. And I think that the cash flow will be immense. We referred to the long-standing supportive shareholders, right? Once we have established cash flow and a good idea of what our balance sheet's going to look like going forward, we'd love to give the shareholders a drink. A dividend policy, a nice, consistent one that you put in and it's in for the long haul. We need to take into context, if this is expandable, we've got to make sure that we don't run the treasury too low, because you don't want to be paying dividends and having to raise debt or equity to fund your share of expansion. So, but I do think there'll be enough cash flow to do both. And look, I strongly believe, and I know Peter does as well, when we drill clay pit, if that is mineralized, that could get very exciting. So we've got to make sure we can fund the exploration there as well. But definitely, Juanicipio is the focus. The cash flow from them, there will be a portion of that has to be earmarked for dividends, because I think that's the right thing to do. I'm also a significant shareholder, so I'm very receptive to taking a dividend. And look, our expertise is with the drill bit. You look at our history, right? And so we have a couple of other assets that we're just incubating at the moment, very much early stage exploration. And we can, maybe that's a siphon for a little bit of cash, right, to bring those forward in the future as we go. M&A, look, I don't know. I think we create far more value with the drill bit. So, that's our focus going forward. And I think 8 people, but you know what? With all due respect to our people, a lot of them have got grey hair. We've seen a couple of cycles. We've been in this industry all our lives, most of us. And we're not going to do too much too quickly. We're going to be prudent, make good decisions for our shareholders and stakeholders. And we grow the company, but we're not going to grow it in a big bang fashion.
Right. It's impressive. I'm looking at my model right here. In a few years production, my estimates show you generating over 100 mil free cash flow a year. You only have 91 million shares outstanding. That's $1 dividend a year. Once you start getting in a few years into production, which is, pretty amazing. It's going to be a great problem to have to, watch you guys grow and see what you do with the free cash flow.
Well, it's a bit like, we have a great problem at the moment is we can't take the drill rigs away from Valdecanes because we hit every time.
Right.
Right. And it's not just getting good numbers. It's also about increasing or improving the geological understanding. Because no one has ever drilled an upwelling zone in this area before. Right, so it's very interesting times for us. I think the cash flow is the same sort of Hollywood problem. What are you going to do with it all?
Yeah.
Right, part of being a very efficient, value-focused vehicle when you have a lot of cash flow, what are you going to do with all that cash? And trust me, we're not going to go out and blow it. Like we didn't go and blow up the company in 2014, 15 when our share price was at all-time highs. Yep. We had some of the best paper in the sector. And everyone's knocking on the door, buy us out, make investments in us, do this. No.
Yeah.
You said earlier, Valdecanes is something special.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys are solely focused on that, and you've been extremely patient, and you've had no dilution, other than a few well-timed raises, and you're just kind of like Fresnillo drilling. You're focused on, Juanicipio Valdecanes, and that's your baby.
Correct. And look, we've said this in the company for years. Our job is not to mess up.
Yeah. It's really smart because I cover, I don't know, like 20, 25 different silver companies, and some of them have one company in particular, I won't even name it. They have a great asset. It generates, close 50 to 100 mil free cash flow every year. Then they blow it on other assets, and the company ends up being break even every year. They don't make any money, and they just waste the money from that one great asset on everything else. And you guys have been patient, you've been good stewards of capital, and you haven't done anything like that. And it doesn't sound like you're going to do anything like that in the future.
I've been in this business for 35 years. I've worked on some very high-grade projects, some very rich projects around the world, built mines, run them, and all that sort of stuff. I've never seen a gift like this. We are not going to encumber this with anything, right? Yep. So reinvestment of capital in this project makes sense. Mm-hmm. If that's a more aggressive drill program, I think that adds a lot of value. If it's expanding the property, it adds a lot of value. And if we do nothing else, I think this is a fantastic company.
Yep. I agree. Is there anything else you'd like to add that you'd like to touch on that we missed?
I think it's important for the people viewing this to know that with the Sprott investment here a month ago, we are very close to being fully funded for our share to get the process plant online. Right? We've got cash flow coming in from sale of rock here in the latter part of the year. We'll see how efficiently Fresnillo executes on the construction. I know there's some news out there that we're going to be doing a bought deal, but we're not doing that. Right? And so if people are shorting the stock in here thinking we're coming to the market in the next few weeks, we're not. Right? We're not. So I still think, even though the share prices perform pretty well, we are coming into a period of re-rating of the shares.
Yeah.
And so now's a good time to buy. Right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's pretty amazing with the mining industry, right? You get the discovery, stock shoots up, then it kind of languishes because most companies screw up their financing. You know what I mean? They dilute too much. They blow out their shareholders. The stock price goes down. Then they come into production, and then the stock price goes back up again. But it's few and far between that you find companies that go through that whole process without major dilution. And you guys have, stair-stepped it nicely on the way up to preserve shareholder value.
Thank you. Well, we think about it a lot, right? We really think about what a great asset it is. Don't encumber it with $18 an ounce producers just to get a nominal amount of cash flow.
Yeah.
When you raise capital, think of the existing shareholders. Mm-hmm. And so you'll find that in the past, we've done a number of equity raises at 52-week highs. Mm-hmm. In fact, post the Eric Sprott investment, we hit a 52-week high. And I just think it's mature hands who recognise what they've got, and we're not going to blow it up.
Right. That is perfect. I agree with you.
Garrett, there's another point I'd like to make. That this is a joint venture, right? So it isn't all MAG. In fact, it's predominantly Fresnillo because they're the operator. And in any relationship, the quality of the relationship is very important. And we are enjoying a very respectful relationship between both companies now, the way we're moving forward. And that's going to realise a lot of value for both companies. Now, it hasn't always been like that. Right? We went through a little awkward period after a takeover and some sort of legal stoushes and whatever, and everyone sort of they did respect each other, but the relationship wasn't as good as now it is. And there's a lot, a lot of two-way information sharing, just very collaborative approach. Both companies understanding how unique Juanicipio is and how important that is for both companies' future.
Yep.
And so that means a lot when you're in a relationship and partners are fighting, it can limit value. If you're in a relationship where partners are working together collaboratively, you maximize value, and that's the situation we've been in for over a year, and I think it'll continue going forward.
Right, I agree, because when I was down there a few years ago, the development really picked up, because I think that's when Saucedo the grade started declining, Fresnillo's production, and started coming off, and the cost started going up. And then it seems like Fresnillo really put the project in overdrive when they saw that slowdown in Saucedo, right?
I think, yeah, I agree. And look, I think when you were down there, we were mining through the sort of weathered horizon and sort of the crappy ground at the top.
Yeah.
Got into better rock, which helped the development rate go up. But I also think with the discovery of the deep zone, right, Fresnillo were the first to go, oh, this is something special.
Mm.
And that's why in the short space of less than a year, we'd done trade-off studies. We'd analysed options, and we made a decision to go from 2,700 tonnes a day to the 4,000.
Mm-hmm.
We moved the crushers underground. We started the work up the internal shaft, and the whole project changed very quickly.
Mm.
A lot of that's because Fresnillo recognised, wow, this is something special.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you look at the numbers, you look at the production, you look at the free cash flow, there's plenty for everyone. And it's so big that even owning only, 56% of it, it moves the needle for Fresnillo.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Plus the exploration upside, right?
Yeah, which, you've been focused on Valdecañas and Juanicipio. You haven't even explored anything else. It's that land, the fluid upwelling that represents the source for all the silver that's come from that area over the past 500 years. They've mined how much silver, like 1 billion ounces or something, like 10% of the world's production right there.
1 of every 10 ounces of silver on the planet comes from that Fresnillo district.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing. Good.
And it's interesting. Yeah. There's a slide towards the end of the presentation that actually shows potential other upwelling zones,
right,
that sit around a volcanic center.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's arm waving. That's Peter McGaw at his best.
Right.
But guess what? On this property, he's been right.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. You can't imagine it getting any better. Like, how can the story get any better?
I go through that. I wake up some days and think, is this real?
Yeah, it's
I've
amazing.
been doing that for nearly 7 years.
Right. That's good. And like you said, in October, they're going to start production, and they're going to be milling it at Saucedo right across the way. You're going to get in a free cash flow right there. And then June of next year, you're going to have your own mill on property?
Yep.
Okay.
In middle of next year, we'll start commissioning and running up the plant. What you may find prior to October this year is we have a small amount of stockpiled material from cross-cuts through Valdecañas in the underground as we set that up, from the north-south structures we've found on the way down.
Oh, right.
And we may put a little bit of that in the Fresnillo plant as well to even get a little bit of cash flow prior to October. But again, we'll be cautious, and so we're not going to see the full ticket cash flow by selling this material to Fresnillo, but we're going to see, something that's going to give us some relief on the capital requirements. Right. It's going to give us the ability to go and claim value-added tax from the construction dollars spent to date, which we wouldn't normally be able to claim until commercial production, more like the end of next year.
Okay.
But most important is a real-life plan view of how this rock processes before we start the plant up.
Right.
That's huge value to Mag and Fresnillo.
Right. And you know, so you've got that. You have the, you know, they'll be milling the ore from October, but they've been mining the same vein for, you know, hundreds of years. So they know what it is already, don't they?
Saucedo since 2008.
Yeah.
But like you say, veins in this area for 130 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right, George. I appreciate your time today.
Always good.
Good. Thanks for joining me, and we'll talk soon.
It's a pleasure. All the best.
Awesome.
And keep yourself safe. Bye.